Hey guys, my name is Nick and welcome to this vlog. Today is Warhammer Fest 2019. I've just got into the car. It is 7:23 in the morning. I'm just going to head down and pick up the guys from the Floorhammer podcast, who once again this year for the third year running will be accompanying me to the Warhammer Fest at Coventry. So managed to survive a full media blackout yesterday. I didn't go on Facebook, I didn't go on Instagram, I didn't go on Twitter. Just to avoid any spoilers, no Warhammer community stuff. I was seeing pop-ups in my feed. I had to turn all my notifications off on my phone. So today is going to be a complete blank canvas. I've not seen anything from any release at all. So you're going to enjoy this journey kind of with me, because I'll no doubt forget to record a lot of stuff, but I will be taking loads of pictures. I've got my digital camera with me, so I'll be grabbing loads of pictures and talking about that as the video gets edited. But until then, let's get on the road. Are we recording?
Yep, we are live. That's your usual quality of speech then, Dave.
Yeah. He's a professional podcaster, you know. But everyone's gone really quiet now.
Everyone's super happy. When I'm approaching a sports location, Nick, I don't really know what to do. Ask the copper where we're going, because we ain't got a clue. Let's get some nice footage of all the sweaty neckbeards.
This is a bit... When was it open? Like 15 minutes ago?
Oh, probably bag checks, mate, for security. Make sure we're not terrorists.
Oh my god, there's a stealth suit.
So we finally made it to the queue for the Warhammer Fest, and in the queue, probably pretty awesome from what I've seen so far. Some of the best cosplay outfits to date. So here's the stealth suit that Dave was handy talking about. That was pretty good. Lots of Space Marines, lots of Necromunda stuff going on. And there we go, there's a Celestine there. Lots of cool stuff with regard to cosplay. Once inside, a handy map to let us know where we're going.
Come with that team.
It's got that team, mate.
Of course I did, mate. You've got to support the channel, haven't I?
So we're going to start our little tour of Warhammer Fest 2019 in the main exhibition hall, and just do a little bit of footage and pan around and see what we found downstairs. On the ground floor then was the big exhibition event hall. Now last year this was full of the Warhammer GT, as well as some of the other sort of third-party companies selling those leggings and things that were going on. This year, as you can see around, a lot more spread out. Everything is very spread out as Glenn gets very excited. This kind of gave the impression that it wasn't very busy down here at all. Now, there were some games going on. Right at the very end was some Blood Bowl, some Shadespire, some other sort of Kill Team stuff going on as well. But as you can see, sort of lots of empty areas. It was just didn't look... You know, sort of the hype that you had last year with the GT going on. I can entirely agree why the GT shouldn't be here, because there was just too many fanboys looking at some of their favourite players. You know, thinking of like Lawrence from Tabletop Tactics. All got a bit crowded, but just generally looking around, lots of space, maybe too much space, that everyone didn't feel like there was enough to do in this giant arena. Now there was the shop was here, and again, there just didn't look to be a huge amount of stock, to be honest. And Forge World just wasn't even advertised. It was just like a row of desks and a catalogue right at the very end. And then we have a look at the seminars. This is where you got the seminar tickets. Last year it was where you got into the building. This year you had to go into here. And then the ones we wanted to do, the Forge World one was already fully booked. The Building a Warzone one was cancelled, which was pretty disappointing, because we really wanted to do that. We like building nice boards between us. And then just looking at Saturdays right in front of us here, look how much more there was on Saturday compared to what we were looking at on Sunday. It was probably 3 times as many seminars and cool things to go and talk to designers and studio folks around than there was on Sunday. Now the year before, it was pretty much a 50-50 split. If you missed the Saturday, you didn't miss out by being there on Sunday. This year kind of felt like we were missing out by being there on that second day.
Yeah, this is an old board. This is...
Yeah, just out of Warhammer World.
This is like 4 or 5 years old.
Oh yeah, still cool.
It's still very cool.
So other than the very old Istvan board, we did have a couple of new ones. So we've got this one here with a lot of the new Black Legion models fighting some salamanders, I believe. This was pretty cool. So this included a lot of the new terrain and a lot of the old terrain kits as well. So you've got the new, was it the Noctilith Crown on the top there? Got some of these cool barricades and stuff. So I think this was really showing off a lot of the new Black Legion kits that are going around with some of those demon engines as well. So this wasn't actually that bad. Then we had one of these for Age of Sigmar. I'm not going to pretend to know what I'm talking about with Age of Sigmar. I don't do Age of Sigmar on this channel. But again, another example of a good board. But this time, not really a display board because everything is still on its base. So this is almost like an intro kind of board. Night Haunts or whatever it is. Yeah, Night Haunts, are they? Night, yeah. So it's more like an intro gaming board that's just been a bit jazzed up. And these were pretty much the only boards floating around. So, yeah, a little bit disappointing on the imaginative board side. So as you can probably guess from my impression on that audio on the video, I wasn't that super impressed. Now this is the biggest area of the convention itself. Last year we had the Warhammer 40k GT going on. That took up a load of space. It created a lot of buzz, a lot of atmosphere going on. I entirely understand, as I just said, really, why they haven't done that this year. And if you're a player, you probably appreciate the fact that that wasn't going on. But there was so much empty space. And then looking at those boards that we saw there, the big display boards, sometimes they bring some down from Games Workshop's display area in their museum. And last year we had some special new boards with a Craft Warlord Titan. We had the Idoneth Deepkin board, which was absolutely stunning. This year, this was pretty much it. So I was expecting a lot more, to be honest, in that big space that we had available. Now, as I was kind of alluding to in that bit of video as well, the shop. So Games Workshop always brings some of their direct-only stuff and typical GW store stuff. I thought that was a bit slim on the options this year. And also, Forge World, you used to have those big red banners at the end and everyone would flock to it and there'd be massive queues for the latest Forge World goodies and so on. This year, I didn't have to queue for anything and I just walked straight up and all I had was a catalogue and an order form. I couldn't see anything. There was nothing on display really. They had more of those... They had more of those Funko Pops, which were pretty much everywhere, where you couldn't turn anywhere without seeing these Funko Pop things that they're pushing at the moment. But yeah, I couldn't really see, you know, they didn't have the big boards, so you can go and sit there and pick Decimator weapons or Leviathan weapons or pretty much anything you wanted. As I said in my preview video, I wanted to go for the Adeptus Titanicus Warlord weapons. There were none of those available, but I was able to pre-order them with free shipping, so that's what I've done. And I did manage to pick up Malevolence, which is the 8th book in the Horus Heresy series. I've been collecting that ever since they launched them. And here is that book, still in its shrink wrap, ready for looking at what's going on here. This one is the one with all the Blood Angels and stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting my eyes looking through that. Also on my shopping list was another Primaris Lieutenant. This is the event-only one. I did hear horror stories of people buying hundreds of, well, not hundreds, but a lot of these, and they're already on eBay for loads of money. I just picked up the one. I picked up one, and one for the Unprofessional Hobbyist, one of my patrons as well. I picked one up for him because he wanted me to grab him one. But yeah, disappointed in the entire area of this. This is the biggest space they've got, and I just wasn't blown away this year by what I was seeing just in that downstairs. The atmosphere, the content down there, it just seemed like a bit of a wasted space. But let's move on to the first floor. This is where we meet the new Contrast paint system. So I guess the big hype this year is all around Contrast, which is this Citadel Colour new paint system, 32 new paints, and you got to try it as well. So I dread to think how many models that they cleaned up and primed ready for this. And I got to have a little go. So I sat down and painted this little fella here, and I just tried 2 different colours. So this is it's still wet with this green colour. I can't quite remember the name of the colour. And then I also had a little go with a flesh cone. Guilliman Flesh, I believe, is the second one, which is supposed to basically self-paint, you know, any flesh. So those were the 2 sort of bits that I got to try. But there was lots of guides, some heavy metal stuff, and just general discussion about how this was produced. So I've actually had a look at the Contrast paint set at last. Not quite what I was expecting, but I was expecting the 2 new base coat paints, which is what they've done. So we've got a sort of a light grey and a bone white one. Then there are 32 of these Contrast paints that go over the top, and it's an interesting concept. So
It basically pulls a lot. You have to use an awful lot of the paint to do it. But I can imagine for certain entry-level gamers and stuff, it's probably a very good idea. But if you're looking for advanced techniques, it's going to be interesting to see what people come up with. But more to follow.
And this fella here is supposedly all painted purely with just the new contrast system, done by the studio painters. And this is supposed to be the general effect that you can achieve once you know what you're doing with them and you're a little bit more practiced than I was in that sort of quick 10-minute demo that I got to have. So that was a little bit of footage that I took outside the arena. I was just taking a quick break immediately after I'd used that contrast system. So that was my first initial reaction that you got to see there. And that was a few hours ago now, so I've had a little bit more of a thought about it. So, given the brief for the developers of this new system, that was 50 shades of grey, or 50 sprues of grey, right? So their idea is to get unpainted plastic, which I've got a plethora of on my desk here, and in my cupboard over there. Probably like many of you as well. And this system, the brief clearly was, let's not have any more grey plastic on our battlefields. Can you spray it in either one of two of these new base spray cans, which was a slightly grey colour and a slightly bone colour. I can't remember the specific names. I'm sure Warhammer Community has it all on there for you. And then you had 32 of these colours that you can then basically apply over the top. And you apply that, no water, straight from the pot. You literally dunk your brush in it so that it's not quite dripping off the end of the brush. You just dab it on the side of the pot. And then you apply that directly over your dry base. There's also a thinner that is specifically designed for these contrast paints. It's not Lamia Medium, it is their contrast thinner. I'm not quite sure what the difference between the two chemically is, but it's supposed to stop it splitting if you thin it too much. If you add water to these, it does split. You have to shake them really, really hard to get the best effect out of them. Must be to do with the colour pigmentation and whatever medium they're using to make it stick to the actual model. So if their brief was purely that, I think they've hit the nail on the head. If you're just getting into the hobby, you don't really like painting, you like building and you like playing and you want to get on the tabletop as quickly as possible with your mates, you know what, you could probably bang out some models with this that would look far better than the old style of spray it black and probably, two primary colours, a red or a blue, whatever your Space Marines are. A little bit of basing material on there, and it was quite a flat finish. Now, these paints technically, when they start to dry, they contract. It starts to dry, and if you imagine like a cloak, for example, you've got those raised edges on a cloak, and then you've got those deep folds. Now, this paint, where it's pulled in those deep folds, will begin to contract into those. That would draw more of the pigment in there, and therefore sort of define the shade for you, while pulling some of that paint away from the highlight, the edges, and kind of leave a natural shaded highlight, almost like a blended highlight. So that's the entire premise, and they're designed to go into all the nooks and crannies so that when it does dry, it does contract into those bits, giving you that darker pigmentation, while as it dries and the paint sort of contracts across the surface, and as that dries and leaves some of the pigment behind, it becomes more and more defined as you get into the recess, and therefore gives you this natural contrasting shade. So those are the positives. I think it's going to be quick and easy. If you're young and getting into this, it's going to be a lot better looking models on tabletops a lot quicker. The downside to me is the paint pots are your standard paint pot size, and I think you'll end up chewing through quite a lot of paint. Even if you're just doing whatever models you're doing, if you're just using 2 or 3 of these to paint an entire model, which you can do, I think you'll end up chewing through a lot of paint just by the nature of applying it pretty heavy and pretty wet. This whole one thick coat almost anti-meme of Duncan Rhodes. I just think you'll end up using a lot of paint. So you'll end up, if you've got several squads of Marines or Plague Marines or whatever you're painting, I think that will chew through a lot of paint. Secondly, when you're doing large flat areas like knights, like big vehicles and so on, it dried quite blotchy. So the paint will try and find these recesses, but where it hasn't got any, it's just going to sit there and sort of contract. Whichever area of the model's drying quickest, it will attract to there, and then just leave these kind of blotchy areas. So if your model's really, really highly detailed, like a Plague Bearer, for example, with all those pustules all over it, it'll be great. If you're doing vehicles with it, I think it'll be terrible. So there's a couple of things there. It's not the saving grace of paint systems. But I'm looking forward to seeing people like Siege Studios or other professional painting companies, or just very, very good painters, seeing what they can actually achieve with multiple different effects, because you can stack these layers and basically add like a filter. If you thin it down, you can use like a dark brown and then go over with a red to give a deeper red. And there's various other things that you can do. We actually saw an heavy metal painter paint a glowing power anvil thing in about 5 minutes flat, and that was probably better than I could do given like an hour with regular paints. So the way they're using them is for glazing, which I thought was very, very cool. I think a lot of advanced painters will probably want to pick up, you know, half a dozen of these to do some very cool effects, but I don't think it's going to change the way that more talented painters or even above average painters are gonna approach painting a model. They're still going to use the old techniques, but they might add some of these to either save time or achieve an effect that might have taken them several other steps. I'm thinking, for me, like leather pouches, Primaris pouches or whatever, anything like that, and also probably the first 2 or 3 levels of effort on a head, like a bare head on a Marine or whatever. I think that's probably where I would start to look at these paint systems. But painting a big Imperial Guard tank, I've got my tanks for Frank here, still sitting here proud, just for a nice shout out. I don't think you'll be able to paint something necessarily like this with those with this new paint system, but I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. It will help an awful lot of people out. And as I said, if the brief was get rid of those grey primed models that you've got, or those you know unpainted models that you've got, a quick spray with the can, dip or two with these new paint systems, and I think we'll see a lot nicer models in general. The average paint level will just rise that a little bit more, and encourage people not to play with armies of grey plastic. So that's my review of the Contrast paint system. Love to know in the comment section below what you thought, if you've managed to see it so far. There was plenty of live demos going on. I think a lot of people were excited about it. They must have gone through thousands of models, allowing people to have a go. It should be out in the next couple of months if you're looking to pick these up. But I'd love to know whether you think this is revolutionary or it's just complementary. For me, I'm on that complementary side. I don't think it's going to change anything for people that have got sort of 2 or 3 years under their belt in the hobby. I think it's definitely entry level, and then maybe some cool special effects. So that was pretty much the entire first floor. There was some seminar rooms, but as I said, we couldn't get into those, mainly because A, they were cancelled, or B, they were maybe Age of Sigmar or something like that, which we weren't interested in. This is a 40k channel, right? So I wanted to get some content on that and couldn't. So we went up to the top floor, second floor then, and this was probably the best floor for all the cool stuff. This is all the studio stuff, the Warhammer TV stuff, White Dwarf, and the Golden Demon entries. So let's go and take a look at what we saw upstairs. So I'm going to kick this off with Chaos Knights, a brand new kit, completely fabricated from the ground up. I think there's only 6 common components between these and their Imperial versions. And we also, below that, this was all I found on Apocalypse. I was expecting a lot more on Apocalypse, and that is pretty much all I saw. But in this little section of the video, let's take a look properly at these new Chaos Knights. This is the Knight Desecrator kit. And as you can see, it comes with some rather cool stuff. It's this big power claw thing and a brand new weapon that we can see on that other arm there. It looks like some kind of super neutron laser las cannon thing, which we've not seen before. So this looks brand new. I'm really quite a fan of the loincloth thing between its groin there, and it's not stupid chains everywhere, you know, or chaos horns everywhere. I think it's actually been done with some serious design effort in mind to make it look suitably evil, but without being. It's an Imperial one with chains and spiky bits on. And I did get to see the sprues for this kit, and as I said, it looks like about 6 common components between this and the Imperial one, but the legs are more henched, or the little bit more bent over. The torso, because it's got a triple exhaust stack, there's extra bits going on those side panels if you've ever built a knight before. So it's not just the Imperial, you know, endoskeleton, you know, the metal bit underneath with a chaos sprue for all the armor panels. There's a lot more going on under the hood as well as on top of the hood, which I think is really good. It means that they've not just been lazy with the design and just basically added a Chaos weapon and Chaos armor panel sprue to the Imperial kit. So that's definitely a big win for me. Whilst we're in Knight territory then, let's take a look at the baby stuff. So we've got some new bits and pieces coming for Titanicus. We've got some Heresy stratagems, some Imperial stratagems and so on going on here. Some new cards and stuff for the Adeptus Titanicus system. But we also have confirmed a brand new model coming for that. And that's these little fellas here, the Knight Porphyrion. So I've got one of these in true scale that obviously I still haven't finished painting. But in the next couple of months, we are going to be seeing these little baby fellas joining the ranks of the Adeptus Titanicus Knights and Titans for your games of Adeptus Titanicus. So I've got some pretty cool pictures. Here's a picture of the frame that's going on with this as well. So again, it takes massive, well, it's just basically a copy of the larger 28mm version and shrunken down into Adeptus Titanicus scale. Really looking forward to seeing these being used. I'm a big fan of this particular knight. Yeah, sort of slightly above average knight. He's a bit taller than a regular knight and a bit smaller than these Reavers, for example. We also have some new Reaver weapons that we can see there, including this little new missile launcher on the top as well. So we've got a few more bits and pieces. Again, kudos to Games Workshop and Forge World for kicking out some more content for Adeptus Titanicus. And then we spin up again back to some Heresy era Knight editions. So based on the Armiger Warglaive chassis, we've got a bunch of new Armiger Mechanicum Knights that are coming along with all kinds of evil arcane weaponry being scaled for these little fellas for the Heresy game. I'm not quite sure whether they've got 40k rules. I don't think they're going to have 40k because they've got specific like Culverin weapons and stuff, which hasn't really left 30k. And here's one of those with a Siege Claw all painted up, so we can actually see the name of it, the Moirax with Volkite, Viewglare and Gaiji's Hecatrix Claw. And we've got a bunch of other little weapons going on here, so we can see what the painted versions look like. Again, it's another knight. I'm a big fan. I think that's based on the standard Armiger platform, just with Forge World armor panels over the top. But we also have the Asterius as well, so brand new Mechanicum knight. It's about the same size as a Porphyrion, and you can see with those mega weapons and so on, another big beast with a big missile rack on the top. I think this looks pretty damn cool, to be honest. I'm quite excited about this fella. We've got a couple of painted photos coming up for you as well, so you can see not just in its beautiful resin glory, where it looks all sort of super clean and all the components fit nicely, because the reality is you'll be hair drying some of these components to bend them into place. But I always like seeing the Forge World clean as versions of these before we see some cool paint jobs. I managed to get a few pictures. They're a little bit tall for me because I'm vertically challenged, so apologies for the angle on these. But yeah, I really like this, and this is in a slightly different colour scheme than we've seen before. So I took a few close-ups of the weapons, the head option, and so on. So you can see a few pictures of this. I'm not quite sure what the name of these weapons are, but they do look suitably arcane and Mechanicum-like. So yeah, I'm not sure whether this will transition to 40k or whether this is going to be pure AdMech 30k. But again, always nice to see more big Knights and Titans hitting that tabletop. Now, what release wouldn't be complete without something for the Primaris, and we have a new tank for the Primaris. This is the Repulsor Executioner, and it comes with a couple of weapon options, which is the Macroplasma Incinerator and the Heavy Laser Destroyer, as well as some transport capacity as well. More exciting though, I think, for Adeptus Mechanicus, we've got two new models for these guys. I think it's going to come from the same kit. One is basically an open top transport, and then one is a mini shooty tank that's going to have potential transport capacity in there. Looks like basically a hover tank with some rudders at the back, which Dark Age of technology I think is pretty cool. I really like these kits, to be honest. I think these are very flavourful and will fit into an Adeptus Mechanicus army without looking like another, walking spider bot thing that happens to have a troop capacity. Much needed in those Adeptus Mechanicus players' armories for sure. There were a couple of other bits and pieces around that were new models as well. We've got a new Legio Custodes Ares gunship that's floating around. That's going to be joining the ranks for the Custodes. We had a tiny little bit more on the Sisters of Battle. Not much. I was expecting a little bit more from the studio guys with, you know, sort of alpha prints or alpha releases of those model kits and give us something a bit more excitable about the Sisters of Battle. But there just wasn't any of that going on. And there was a couple of other little bits I want to sort of draw your attention to. First was some more Adeptus Titanicus terrain. I did forget to mention that a little bit earlier. So we've got some more sort of scatter terrain, sort of generators and fuel dumps and barricades and that kind of stuff. More sort of low-level stuff. We've already got the really tall spires and so on going forward. But just to make those battlefields look a little bit more cool, we've got some more low-level terrain coming. So that's going to be very excited for those Adeptus Titanicus players. Also, whilst walking around this area, getting to interact with some of the studio guys, it does sound like we may well be getting the Warbringer in Adeptus Titanicus scale as well. There seems to be no reason not to do that. I got some really cool pictures of that Legio Furians Warbringer Titan. I'm going to put some pictures up in a second of that. I've got some really cool pictures of that. That is such a work of art. I think that is now probably the best Forge World paint job of a large scale that I've ever seen. It is the old Reaver, or the old Warlord used to be very, very good. The Reaver was very good, but this thing is just a work of art. It looks like it's not been painted. It looks like that's how it actually comes. It looks like no one's gone to it with paint. It just looks manufactured like it. It's just stunning. But you'll see some pictures in a second. Also floating around are, from some of those studio guys, the rumours of a slight buff to the Space Marine range. Just to make them a bit more survivable, because they do suck in general on the tabletop. Not quite sure how that's going to manifest itself, whether that might ignore the first AP-1 modifier, or do something to do with the damage rolls that you get. It might, you know, reduce it by 1 or halve it or something like that, just to make sure that Space Marines are where they should be, because right now you don't see very many of them because they're pretty poor when it certainly comes to competitive. I think they look cool on the tabletop, right? But realistically, in the game at the moment, their meta is pretty low key. So hoping to see perhaps a new beta rule come out for those in the not too distant future. Finally, upstairs then was Golden Demon. I'm going to wrap up with some pictures of the Golden Demon entries. My favourite is a Great Unclean one, basically watching some Blood Bowl with his box of popcorn. I think that was such a great model. You know, if you're doing a Great Unclean one, everyone's going to be entering those because it's a beautiful kit, but you can't really do a lot with it. So this guy was probably my favourite. But I'd love to know in the comment section again below, what did you think of some of these fabulous entries? Some not so good, some absolutely stunners. I'd love to know it in the comment section below. So I'm going to run some pictures of the rest of the fest with some of the pictures that I've got with a little bit of music, and let me know what you thought in the comment section below, and I'll back with a closeout commentary right at the very end. So just to wrap up this video then, so my experience of 2019 Warhammer Fest, the good, the bad and the ugly. Let's start with the ugly. Not being able to get into a seminar, and the fact there was only a third of them available from the Saturday, and one of those was cancelled. So everyone was trying to get into basically one seminar, which was the Forge World one for the new book 9 and see what's going on in the Heresy world. Nobody could get in. Well, I say nobody. People could get in, but unless you were sort of the first 100 or so, whatever the capacity was in the queue, you had no chance. And you didn't know that till you got there. And the fact that the other one was cancelled. Where's the backup? Where's the planning around, you know, if someone's ill or whatever? Where's your backup? Not good enough. And the fact there was only a third of them, definitely not good enough. So, yeah, I'm putting that on my ugly list for this year. Let's step up to not quite so ugly. Let's go into bad. The main events arena area with the shop and everything else. Years gone by, you were there for one reason, to get something new and cool. And there just isn't anything new and cool that's being launched at the flagship event. So the Forge World stand just wasn't a Forge World stand for me. The retail stand, nothing super stood out for that. Clearly not enough stock for the things that people want, such as Quake cannons for Adeptus Titanicus. And you could go there and you could just pre-order stuff or order it online for the shipping saving. Now that for me for a flagship event. Now I know GW events are now spread far and thin across Adepticon and LVO and other events that go on globally. Maybe that's chewed up a bit of budget. But this looked a little bit lackluster in this big space. Not a lot going on, no atmosphere. It was just people milling around looking at, you know, the video game arena or whatever. And that's just not, to me, what this event should be. This is the flagship thing. So it's bad, it's not ugly. Could do better with that space, definitely. Let's move on to the positives then. Well, sitting between good and bad, contrast paint system. This was the big release. This is clearly where all the focus was. We got badges, there was T-shirts going around on all the staff saying, ask me about the new paint scheme or whatever. Lots of investment into this. Is it great? No. You can see my previous comments earlier in this video. It's good, but it's not a game changer. It's not going to change the way anyone who's got a couple of years experience under their belt is going to paint things. It might save you a few, you know, cut a few corners for you to make things look cool without spending as much time on it. Is it bad? No, it's fulfilled a brief. No more grey plastic on the tabletop. This is the quickest way to achieve that. So between a good and a bad, I'm not completely sold until I've given it a bit more go. And I may be sold when I see some professional painters apply some fancy techniques with it. Let's move on to the good then. Adeptus Titanicus constant development. More miniatures, more terrain. Very, very cool. Happy to see that. New knights for the Mechanicum. New vehicles for the Adeptus Adeptus Mechanicus. Another repulsor tank. Yeah, I'm not so keen on that. You know, I've still got one unpainted down here somewhere. It does suck on the tabletop, by the way. But we've got a new heavy-hitting version of that rather than a sort of an anti-infantry one. And that's probably where my good side's going to wrap up. One more bad thing, not enough Sisters of Battle. I was expecting a lot more stuff on Sisters. But while we're thinking of one more bad thing, one more good thing, because I've got this right in order, obviously. I'm not even going to edit that together. The good thing, Chaos Knights. That kit, re-engineered, no cutting corners with just using the existing sprues and then adding a Chaos armor plate to it. Re-engineered, very, very cool. Very happy with that. So, from a new models perspective, yep, happy. Adeptus Titanicus support, happy. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be my thoughts wrapped up on Warhammer Fest 2019. Hoping it gets better for 2020. We were supposed to go on Saturday this year. My media blackout did work, so I saw nothing. But next year, Saturday, we couldn't do it for logistics reasons, basically because Floorhammer podcast Dave was on holiday, didn't fly back home until late yesterday. So we did change it to the Sunday. Next year, I think Saturday's where it's at, especially if seminars are going to go this way for next year's Sunday. This is poor. So if anyone is watching from Games Workshop and has any influence, yeah, the seminar thing, poor. So looking forward to 2020, looking forward to the releases that are going to come between now and then. I'd love to know your thoughts in general on what you've seen of Warhammer Fest 2019. There's a bucket load of videos, loads of content on YouTube. A lot of people that didn't actually go, and all I've done is rehash the Warhammer community website. If you want to go and see someone's opinion on something you can actually go and read for yourself and have your own opinion, then you know I'm sure the channels to go to. If you want to go and see people who have actually been there, obviously watch my video. There are several others out there as well of people that were there, and I did get to meet a few cool people. But if you want to go and watch a rehash, then you know where to go, I'm sure. But if you want to leave your comments in the section below as usual, let me know your thoughts on the new models, the new paint system, and anything else that you thought was cool during this video. I'd love to hear from you. But until then, I shall catch you guys on the next video.